What started on the drawing board became a trophy. Engineers at Federal Premium Ammunition designed the trophy-bonded tip bullet to deliver devastating, bone-crushing performance. With a translucent polymer tip and boat-tail design, Trophy Tip provides flatter trajectories and improved accuracy. Plus, a solid copper shank jacket and bonded core mean high weight retention and deep penetration. Trophy Bonded Tip from Federal Premium Ammunition. Claim your trophy.
Hey everybody, Dan Schmidt here. Thanks for joining us for Deer Talk Now once again. Today we're going to mix it up a little bit. We have a show that is going to get me off on a rant here. I talked about it for a week. We had it on Facebook. We promised it, and here it is. What you're looking at in front of me here is 24 years worth of data. What were you doing 24 years ago? Were you even alive 24 years ago? Or were you in grade school or maybe in diapers? Well, 20 years ago when I started here at Deer and Deer Hunting, I took over this project. It's been around since 1992. It's been around for a few years before I got here. It's a Deer Hunter's Almanac. It's the #1 source for deer hunting information state by state in the country. We've been compiling deer stats for over 24 years. Every state is listed: deer hunters, deer harvest, averages, how many deer are in each state. And one thing that really gets me going is when I read something like I read this week. Actually, it was at the end of last week. And somebody put up a top 10 list on the 10 worst deer hunting states in the United States. And among those states listed were Michigan, Wisconsin, where we are right now, Pennsylvania, and New York, 4 of the biggest deer hunting states historically in the country. And in this story that was published online, they went into things about why, there's other states in there, a lot of northeastern states, Rhode Island, Maine, Vermont, and why these states were so horrible and why no one would ever want to hunt in these states. And a couple of things they attributed to were low harvest records, the number of yearling bucks in the harvest, the number of the lack, I guess, perceived lack of mature bucks in the harvest, and weather. And when I looked at this, I just shook my head and I could not believe that after all these years, Deer and Deer Hunting has been around since 1977, trying to educate deer hunters on the scientific facts on deer and how they're distributed, how somebody could be so naive to put 4 of the top deer hunting states in a list of the 4 worst deer hunting states. So today I'm going to tell you, using the statistics that we've compiled, which are the 10 best deer hunting states in the country and why this is. First of all, like I've already said, 4 of the states that are perceived to be the worst are actually the best. And these are in no particular order. I'm going to read the list for you that I've compiled here. This is not from 1 to 10. This is just 10 based off of what I know through hard statistics, 10 of the best deer hunting states in the country. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, New York, Missouri, Ohio, Illinois, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and obviously Texas. That would be the 11th state, but Texas would be considered in the top 5. Texas is in there as well, but I'm going to go through every single state and I'm going to explain why these states are among the best in the country. But before I do that, let's talk about deer first. To understand what makes a state superb deer hunting wise, you have to understand how deer behave and how deer are distributed across the country. We often talk in terms of deer densities, and this is where people get confused. I always say it's that old Chevy Chase skit. I was told there's going to be no math involved here. Your teachers always told you you have to understand your math. That's why I went in journalism, because I didn't. But you have to understand math to understand how deer can be distributed scientifically and responsibly across any habitat. And this has to do with deer densities. So we often talk, if you look at any QDM model, they always say the optimum number, or I should say the maximum number for any habitat is about 35 deer per square mile for a healthy habitat. So what do we mean by this? 35 deer per square mile, 35 deer per 640 acres of habitat. Okay, now we can think about that. Now, think about your particular situation. What do you hunt? Do you hunt 10 acres? Do you hunt 40 acres? Do you hunt 100 acres? Do you hunt 1,000 acres? Think of yourself, I often do this in my seminars, put yourself in your favorite tree stand right now and think about it. And now, what is that property that you're hunting? How big is the property? Like I said, is it 40 acres? Is it 80, 100, 1,000? How many deer did you see today? Did you see 10 on opening day? Did you see 20? Then take that circle around your tree stand and expand it out. How many acres do you have to expand that to get to 640 acres? How many other properties does that encompass? How many landowners, how many neighbors do you have to go across fences to get to that 640 acres of habitat? This doesn't count parking lots or subdivisions, it's of habitat. So 640 acres, 35 deer maximum. So if you saw 10 deer on opening day in your 40-acre woodlot, think about that. That's a third of the deer that should be maximum on that 640 acres. You'll say, well, I only saw one. That's okay. The other thing you have to consider here, deer aren't distributed equally. In the past 10, 15, 20 years, especially over the past 10, 15 years, the popularization of deer management and habitat management has shifted how deer behave on the landscape. So you might have, there's proven through aerial surveys in some high deer density areas, you could go over a 40-acre woodlot and not see one deer, and you could go to the next 40-acre woodlot and see 150 deer. 150 deer for 80 acres, way too many for the habitat. It's proven scientifically correct. I could go off on that tangent, but that being said, once you understand how many deer should be on the property or on the landscape in a region, now you can better understand these numbers I'm going to throw at you, because there's a lot of numbers I'm going to throw at you. So let's go through the list. Let's take Michigan, for example. Michigan, much maligned. A lot of people say, oh, Michigan's horrible, it sucks, there's not enough deer, it's not like it used to be. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at the 5-year averages, and that's how I do everything in this almanac is 5-year averages, because, and actually 5 years is not enough. We should do 10-year averages, because some years are going to be up, some years are going to be down. It depends on weather, it depends on a number of things. Michigan, 750,000 deer hunters, average 440,000 deer killed per year, 58% success rate. Pretty good, I would say. When you consider that Michigan also encompasses the UP, which is a much different habitat than lower peninsula, and Michigan has 19 million acres of forested land. That's a lot of land. 4.5 million acres of that land is public land. So from a deer hunter's perspective, 750,000 hunters, huge sample size. Now before I discuss Wisconsin, we're going to take Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and New York. 1/3 of the country's deer hunters live in one of these 4 states, live and hunt in one of these 4 states. 1/3 of 11 million whitetail hunters. I always say it's about opportunity, and it's about preserving the sport. We want to preserve the sport. We want as many hunters out there as possible. So we're going to get to Wisconsin. Wisconsin, very similar, 700,000 hunters, 350,000 average deer killed per year, 53% success rate. Over 16 million acres of land, of which 7.5 million acres is public land. Despite all this, despite all that pressure, and people say, oh, Wisconsin's over-hunted, there's too many hunters. Wisconsin's #1 for trophy production. It's amazing when you think about it. Pennsylvania, 850,000 hunters, 330,000 deer killed annually, 17 million acres of wooded land. Tremendous potential in Pennsylvania, a lot of hunters. The most hunters in the country, 850,000 deer hunters in Pennsylvania. New York, 600,000 hunters, 230,000 deer killed, 38% success rate. And they say, oh, wow, 38% success rate is nothing like Michigan's 58% success rate. Yeah, you're not including the Adirondacks there. You're including some land that is marginal deer habitat at best as far as holding high deer densities. That's what I talk about. High deer densities, 35 deer per square mile, not happening in the Adirondacks. Adirondacks is a lot like northern Wisconsin, a lot like the UP of Michigan. You're talking single-digit deer densities. So if you take that out of the equation, see where I'm going here? You take all that marginal habitat out of the equation, you got many more hunters pursuing a lot more deer in a smaller amount of land. Okay, that's what I call the heavy lifters. The heavy lifters in the top 10, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and New York. Hands down, not a question. And let's back up for a second. People say, oh, well, they're killing so many yearling bucks there. Well, I hope so, because you're not going to be killing any deer otherwise. Because if you killed all the does, oh, go kill a doe, you're not going to have these high deer densities, deer populations that these states would have if they weren't killing some yearling bucks. But even though some of these states are killing 55% of their buck harvest as yearling bucks, what we conveniently forget is that just a few years ago, states were on the any buck is a good buck mantra, and 85% of the buck population was yearling bucks. So it's all about perspective when you think about that. Let's get to the middle class here. The middle class of the upper end, the upper echelon of deer hunting states. Missouri, Ohio, Illinois. 3 very solid states. Perspective is needed here. Okay, you got to remember these numbers. Michigan, 750,000 hunters. Wisconsin, 700,000 hunters. Pennsylvania, 850,000 hunters. New York, 600,000 hunters. Missouri, 525,000 hunters. Ohio, 250,000 hunters. That's it. So everybody say, oh, it's much better in Ohio. Well, I hope so. They only have a third of the deer hunters that some of these other states have. Illinois, 250,000 hunters. You know where I'm going here? 250,000 hunters in Ohio, 250,000 hunters in Illinois. Illinois is killing about 185,000 deer a year. Ohio's killing about 240,000. Ohio's percentage is almost 100%. 250,000 hunters, 240,000 deer killed. Yeah, that's great. A lot fewer guys are doing that. We're going to get to that point here in a second when we talk about the mirage states. The mirage states, I've hunted all 3 of them, I believe. No, I haven't. I've hunted 2 out of the 3. Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina. I've hunted Alabama and Georgia. Incredible deer hunting states. Wonderful places to visit. Some of the best deer hunting I've ever experienced. But let's listen to these hunter numbers for a second. Alabama, 240,000 hunters. Not that many hunters. Georgia, 350,000 hunters. Pretty decent. South Carolina, 230,000 hunters. Not a lot of hunters when you consider some of those other states. But consider this. I'm going to keep throwing these numbers back and forth at you. Alabama, 240,000 hunters kill, on average, 315,000 deer every year. That's pretty good, huh? That means every single guy's killing a deer. Not so much. For the most part, in the South, I'm not saying 100%. For the most part in the South, you're talking about almost unlimited doe hunting. You're talking about states like Alabama where you can kill 3 bucks. And you're talking about large properties, large leases. It's common you have a couple guys leasing 2,000-3,000 acres. What did George Carlin say? It's the same 3 rednecks winning all the races, right? I mean, I'm not calling anybody redneck. I'm just quoting George Carlin here. Perspective. If you have 240,000 hunters on 23 million acres of land in Alabama. Think about that. 23 million acres of forested land in Alabama. Michigan has 19 million acres. So Alabama has more land, yet a third of the deer hunters that Michigan has. It's a good place to be if Alabama, if you're one of the deeded gentry, if you're lucky to have a lease. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not the trophy potential that Michigan has, but pretty darn good. That's why they're in the top 10. That's why Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, mostly private land. Haven't hunted there. I have many friends who have. 13 million acres, mostly private, very good deer hunting. Perspective, a mirage, kind of what I talk about, a mirage. Georgia, Alabama, wonderful deer hunting opportunities for not as many deer hunters. Now, let's go to Texas. I include Texas in the top 10 list, obviously, because Texas is bigger than life. Everything's bigger in Texas, but I've been in this chair too long that I know too much about how Texas reports its statistics. Let's go back to 2009. Right now, first I'll give you the stats. 650,000 deer hunters in Texas kill on average, according to them, 590,000 deer a year, which is phenomenal. Modern day record for most deer harvested in a season was Wisconsin with 618,000 and some change deer, 618,000. I say that because Wisconsin was the only state up until this year that reported every single deer harvest. So if they said they killed 618,254 deer, 618,254 deer had a metal tag put in its ear at a check station. No other state does that. You want to know how the other states do it? This is how they do it right here. I dropped it. It's a guess. It's modeled guesses. In Michigan, for example, they do bridge counts. What does that mean? They actually have biologists sitting on bridges counting deer off of trucks as they come by and using that as a survey. They do that in Michigan, at Mackinac Bridge. Seriously, that's what they do. 6, 12, how many do you have today? I don't know, we had 1,500 deer that we counted today. Okay, we're gonna multiply that by X amount of deer hunters, and that's how many deer we killed. Really, seriously, that's what they do, seriously. Other states, same thing. Alabama, Georgia, not to pick on them, excellent deer hunting states. Back when I was doing this book in the late 90s, I'd call the guy from Alabama, I said, what was your deer harvest? We don't know yet. I'd call him again 2 weeks later, we don't know yet, we're gonna guess. I don't know, we killed 350,000 deer. I call the guy from Georgia, how many deer did you kill? I don't know, what did Alabama say? Oh, we killed more than that, we killed 375. I'm not kidding you, that's how they did it. The modeling for states' harvests is a coin flip at best. Wisconsin previously would come within 5% for years and years and years. They're off by 2 years because of bad winters for the past 40 years. Other states, if they get within 25%, they're happy with that. Perspective. It's all about perspective. One thing my dad always says, if you tell somebody something slick enough and you tell them it often enough, they're going to believe it. A lot of people get lulled into, boy, my state must be really horrible because this other state's reporting a lot more deer killed. Don't always believe that. Okay, back to Texas. Texas, 650,000 hunters, killing supposedly 590,000 deer a year. Well, lo and behold, we were doing this book for many, many years, and we were reporting Texas deer harvests. And we went back and we started in 1981 reporting Texas deer harvests, and their harvests were, I'm just going to read some of these annual harvests, 300,000, 337,000, 445,000, you know, it's all right around there, 400,000, which is about probably accurate for 600,000 hunters. That sounds about right. But then in 2009, I had one of my associate editors working on this book, and he turned in the statistics for Texas. I said, whoa, wait a second. How did Texas go from 392,000 deer in 1998 to 561,000 deer the next year? And he said, oh, about that. And I'm going to read you what we had here. In 2009, the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department changed its formula, its modeling formula. I flipped that coin, which I couldn't keep on my hand, for estimating their deer harvests and their deer populations. The change in the modeling method that from 2009 to the next year resulted in increase. So they adjusted all the prior year's increases for prior year's harvest for 20 years by more than 100,000 deer a year. Really. So we went from saying they killed 373,000, and now actually it was more like 473,000. Texas is still a good place to hunt, but just because they're saying they killed 590,000 deer, you got to take that with a grain of salt. Not picking on anybody, I'm just pointing out facts. All right, so now that you digested all that, and we have some stats, let's go to what I believe, and this isn't gospel, this is what I believe, are the top 3 underrated states in the United States for deer hunting, the top 3 overrated states in the United States for deer hunting, and then a little bit more perspective, because I like doing that with numbers. That's where my baseball stats come out. I used to love doing this with baseball stats when I was younger. Top 3 underrated states in the United States for whitetail hunting: Mississippi, Arkansas, and Louisiana. 3 southern states, 3 really good southern states. Why is that? For the most part, these states are underrated because they have low hunter densities. They have high deer hunter harvests, a lot of the reasons from what I stated before, and they have a lot of opportunity. Like Arkansas, for example, lots of public land opportunity. Louisiana, 14 million acres of forest in that small state. If you look at Louisiana compared to the land mass of some of these other states, tremendous deer habitat. And it follows the Mississippi River. Not so coincidentally, if you go up the Mississippi River, all the best deer hunting states, most of the best deer hunting states are located off the Mississippi Delta region. Mississippi, 140,000 hunters, 285,000 annual harvest. That's almost, well, not 2 deer a year, but pretty darn good, deer and a half per guy or gal. Arkansas, 300,000 hunters, 200,000 harvest, very good. Louisiana, 160,000 hunters, 150,000 deer harvested every year. Excellent. So those 3 states could be right there, 11, 12, 13 on the list. The top 3 overrated states, and these are the ones that I always see in the best category. If we're talking about trophy hunting, yeah, they're going to be included. But trophy hunting, not for everybody. Not for everybody for the means that they don't want to do it, or not for everybody, they don't have the means that they can do it, they can pay to do it. Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, great trophy hunting states, but Iowa, 125,000 hunters. Kansas, 125,000 hunters. Kentucky, 125,000 hunters. Kansas, they kill 90,000 deer a year. Iowa, 225,000. Kentucky, 225,000. Phenomenal places to hunt, if you can find a place to hunt. If you have somebody you know, if you can pay to go there, great. But perspective, let's take Iowa, Kansas, and Kentucky and compare them to one state, Michigan. Iowa, Kansas, and Kentucky combined harvest 375,000 deer a year by 540,000 hunters off of 21 million acres of land. Okay? I'm going to repeat that. Michigan, 440,000 deer harvested. Okay? Michigan, 440,000 deer harvested. Those three states, 375,000. Pretty close. 540,000 hunters in these three states. 700,000 plus hunters in Michigan. 750,000 hunters in Michigan off of 19 million acres. So Michigan hunters, there are 250,000 or 200,000 more hunters in Michigan hunting on 2 million less acres of land, killing more deer than those three states combined. Okay, everybody's going to say, oh yeah, Dan, well, harvest isn't everything. Just killing a deer isn't everything. No, it's not. But if people aren't harvesting deer, and that's one thing that the statistics will bear out, if you're in a place with very low success rates, your hunter recruitment, your hunter retention is going to drop dramatically. No, you can't just pretend like you're the 35-year-old guy or gal who wants to hunt a trophy buck when you have everybody else who might want to just hunt for a deer. You got a kid who hasn't hunted before. You got to consider everybody in there. And that's what I'm talking about, retaining our 11 million base of whitetail hunters. I want more hunters. I don't want less. If I want less hunters, I'll go somewhere and hunt there. I'll go to Wyoming. I love Wyoming. It's one of my favorite places to hunt. Very few hunters, lots of land to roam on. But if that's what I want personally, that's what I'm going to do. But if I'm talking about just pure best places to hunt, I want to be where the masses are, because I know that's what's going to keep our sport going for a long time. Okay, so that's my rant. I hope you enjoyed it. And I know Andrew's going to give you a bunch of great visuals to look at with this. But let's talk about rankings. Rankings are all subjective. That's why I didn't number them 1 to 10, because everybody would say, oh, you're going to say Wisconsin's first. I still think it's first, just because I've lived here and I've hunted whitetails in 22 other states. But this is what I consider the best deer hunting, no matter where you are, whether you're in Vermont or Maine or South Carolina or Georgia or Florida, which is a good state, by the way, or Wyoming or Colorado or Montana or Oregon or wherever you happen to be. It's about tradition. It's about history. It's about how long have people been hunting in that area. How many people is it attracting? If Pennsylvania's attracting 850,000 deer hunters a year, it's a rich tradition. By the way, it's one of the first places that, Penn's Woods, it's deep in tradition. But that's what I'm talking about. So you gotta, for me, I consider tradition, I consider history, opportunity. If there's 800,000 guys in a state that are getting the opportunity to hunt, and gals, I have to keep saying that, it's a good place to hunt, and it's got to be in the top 10. If they got over 700,000 deer hunters, they got to be doing something right. Like I said, and also, us as deer hunters, we have to insist on sound science-based deer management. Not what's going to bring more trophy bucks in my 40-acre woodlot. Not what's going to put 60 deer per square mile in my county. That's not what we should be striving for. What we should be striving for is responsible deer populations, responsible deer harvest, and maximum deer hunting opportunities. If you want to kill a trophy, open up your wallet, get in your car, go to a place that's going to provide you that opportunity. If you're not happy with what you got at home, you're responsible for your own happiness. It pretty much comes down to that. So stop complaining, stop whining, and stop bashing on the success stories. Thank you for letting me rant. I'm Dan Schmidt. Thank you for joining us for Deer Talk Now. Join us next time where we're going to tackle another subject and show you some great new gear. Also, check out shopdeerhunting.com for our specials for the week. We'll catch you next time.
What started on the drawing board became a trophy. Engineers at Federal Premium Ammunition designed the trophy-bonded tip bullet to deliver devastating, bone-crushing performance. With a translucent polymer tip and boat-tail design, Trophy Tip provides flatter trajectories and improved accuracy. Plus, a solid copper shank jacket and bonded core mean high weight retention and deep penetration. Trophy Bonded Tip from Federal Premium Ammunition. Claim your trophy.
Here at Deer and Deer Hunting, we've always prided ourselves on providing science-based information to make you more informed, which is going to make you a better deer hunter. Features in every issue you're going to find include deer research, deer behavior, deer biology, and practical information on gun equipment, bow hunting equipment, muzzle loading. Whatever you do, whatever you hunt with, we're going to provide it for you in every issue of Deer and Deer Hunting. Some of our most popular columns in the magazine include the Bow Shop column and the Gun Shop column. This is going to take you inside the pro shop and answer your questions that you have on any kind of gear-related matter. Also, we have Butcher Shop, teaching you how to process your own venison to make better meals for your family. You can get 12 issues for only $19.99. All you have to do is call the number on your screen or visit the URL, sign up, 12 big issues for $19.95. You cannot beat that price.